I want you to get together.
Hello everyone. I have an off-the-cuff video for you guys today. I suppose you could consider this maybe a part of the Nephilim Look Like Clowns series, which I have on my channel, because this is certainly something I've had a lot of people send me over the past few days, telling me to look into and telling me to make a quick commentary about. So that's what I'm going to do today. Now, in true typical fashion, more and more confirmation that the entities of the spirit realm, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, do indeed seem to have clownish features. And this odd story has appeared, like I said, just over the past 3 days, um, explaining how there is a syndrome in which people see faces distorted in a demonic fashion. So let's just read this so we can get the overall gist of the idea. And then I'll do a bit of a take of what my thoughts are on all of this, because I do have a few things which I kind of picked up as while reading, which I think might be pertinent to bring up and to consider when thinking about these type of things and when presented these things by the mainstream media, because that's what's odd about this. And whenever the media shows you something, you need to ask first of all, why are they showing us this? So let's read. Let's just read what it says here so we can understand just what this is if you haven't already heard about this. So haunting demon faces show what it's like to have a rare, distorted face syndrome. A rare case of, and I'm going to try to pronounce this now, prosopometamorphosia allowed researchers to depict the facial distortions. So here's a picture of what people who have this issue see when they look at a human face. And quite naturally, as you can see, they have a wider than natural human smile, like that akin to a serpent or a reptile, let's say. Remember, a snake can dislocate its jaw to eat its prey, and elongated features like eyes, making them look much wider, making the pupils look much smaller, odd creases all over the face, prominent brow ridge, pointed ears, hook-pointed nose, features with flared nostrils. It certainly looks like something like a clown, doesn't it? Or something like the Joker from Batman, let's say. And although this isn't evidence enough to prove my theory alone, this is just one of many, many things which are adding towards the compilation of my theory, hinting that yes, it does seem like the demonic, the spirits, those we call the Nephilim, certainly did have clown-like features. I mean, you look at this wide grin here, and is it really much different from the grins on these old circus clown posters where they have this unnaturally wide smile, which is way far from human, you know? I certainly think it does. I think we can see the similarities, from this visage here to the demon visage we see here as well. So keep reading on. It says here, a 58-year-old man with a rare medical condition sees faces normally on screens and paper, but in person, they take on a demonic quality. The patient has a unique case of PMO, a condition that causes people's faces to appear distorted, reptilian, or otherwise inhuman. A new study published by The Lancet describes the case, which is unique in that, to the man, the faces only appear demonic when the individuals are physically present. The patient has been perceiving faces as distorted for 31 months. At first it was distressing to him, but now he has become habituated to them. The paper states, because faces appear ordinary to him on screens and in person, the research team had a unique opportunity to probe how the distortions manifest and create accurate visualizations of the demonic countenances. In other studies of the condition, patients with PMO are unable to assess how accurately a visualization of the distortions represents what they see, because the visualization itself also depicts a face. So the patients will perceive distortions on that too, says Antonio Mello, a researcher at Dartmouth College and lead author of the study, in a university release. Through the process, we were able to visualize the patient's real-time perception on the face distortions. End quote. For the patient, faces in person are unsettlingly distorted. Eyes are stretched and angular, nostrils flare out, and lips stretch outwards to comprise the entire width of the face. grooves appear on the forehead, and ears warp into an elvish shape, ending in sharp points. In milder cases, facial features merely droop, appear out of position, or are smaller or larger than they are in real life. In another case published in The Lancet in 2014, a 52-year-old woman in the Netherlands reported a lifelong history of seeing people's faces change into dragon-like faces and hallucinating similar faces many times a day. She could perceive and recognize actual faces, but after several minutes they turned black, grew long, pointy ears and a protruding snout, and displayed a reptiloid skin and huge eyes in brown, yellow, green, red, or blue. She saw similar dragon-like faces drifting towards her many times a day from the walls, electrical sockets, or the computer screen, in both the presence and absence of face-like patterns, and at night she saw many dragon-like faces in the dark. According to Brad Duchesne, senior author on the study and principal investigator of Dartmouth's Social Perception Lab, people suffering from PMO are often diagnosed with other disorders like schizophrenia and prescribed antipsychotics. Quote, "It's not uncommon for people who have PMO to not tell others about their problem with face perception because they fear others will think the distortions are a sign of a psychiatric disorder," Duchesne said. Quote, "It's a problem that people often don't understand," end quote. The 58-year-old patient had a history of bipolar affective disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The research team noted, as well as a head injury when he was 43 years old. The patient had no impairments to eyesight and a small round lesion on his left hippocampus, which the team concluded was a cyst. Other individuals suffering from an Alice in Wonderland syndrome, a catch-all term for perceptual distortions, also were reported to have brain lesions. Migraines, psychoactive drug use are also linked to the syndrome, though none were observed in the recent patient's case. To characterize the facial distortions, the researchers had the man describe perceived differences between the face of a person in the room with him and a photo of that person. Due to the PMO, the in-person face was distorted, and the on-screen face looked like an ordinary face. PMO can last just days for some and years for others. Only 75 case reports of PMO have been published, according to the researchers. It's certainly one of the rare and more disturbing perceptual disorders, but knowing how it manifests means that few patients will be misdiagnosed in the future. And I just want to quickly note here, I'm getting an advertisement for a polka dot party hat, a clown-related thing, while I'm reading this theory, while I'm reading this article and relating it to my Nephilim Look Like Clowns theory. So I thought, is this Google messing with me on the side here? I just thought that was funny. But there's a few points here I want to bring out, and a few things which I thought were interesting that first came to my attention when reading this. First of all, someone made a joke in the Telegram group. I think it was my mod. Basically saying this is something akin to having to look at Willem Dafoe's face everywhere you go. And I just thought that was hilarious, and he's not wrong, that's for sure. Because you look at the images that they present here, and it is very wrinkled, angular, sharp, wide-grinned, menacing, irreverent-looking face, you know. And if you don't know my work, I have been showing unequivocally that the representations of demons all around the world often show these same features, and what we call a modern Western clown is in fact a caricature based on all of these ancestor spirit worship cultures around the world, an amalgamation of Nephilim-esque features caricatured into what we call a clown in the West. So go check out the series if you haven't already. It's very in-depth. I know what it sounds like on the surface, but there's a lot more to this than you may actually know, just from that very loose description I gave you there. It goes deep. But you can see the unnaturally wide smile on this poster here from the mid-20th century. And these are Nephilim features. A wide jaw is specifically one of them. And like I said, the people who see these faces see the same thing. Now, I thought it was interesting in this where they mentioned that the woman also claimed to see dragon-like faces. Now, again, I do believe that dragons were the seraphim-class angels who mated with human women to create human-dragon hybrid offspring, which we call the Nephilim. That's where they inherited their bright colours, such as, it says here, bright yellow, green, blue, or red. Not dissimilar from how we dress a clown in bright colours as well. This is serpent skin features. These are dragon features, and that's where the clown bases its makeup designs from. It's to mimic the features the Nephilim had, which are primarily white skin and red hair, which is the basic base for most clowns. But all the other features, like the slit pupils, that's a predator symbol, which you see on clowns quite often. You see the ruffle around the neck, which is a reptilian frill. You can often see elongated skull caps as well, which again is a Nephilim-esque feature, which you also see on these images. The skull is flattened to make it look more pointed in this case, which I thought was quite interesting as well. Yeah, so certainly Nephilim look like clowns by virtue of um, the fathers, I suppose, the dragons, the seraphim class fiery flying serpents who mated and mixed themselves with human women and created this hybrid offspring. These are the things that became the demons. So what's going on here? Are people being possessed by demons and we're simply seeing the manifestation of the demon within manifest onto the features of individuals? And normally we wouldn't be able to perceive this manifestation, but suddenly people now, for some reason in 2024, and maybe in 2014, just in the past decade, suddenly this is a thing. And what did they say? 75 people. I remember listening earlier, and it was 81 on another source, but only a handful of people have come forward saying they have this problem. Is this a new problem? Only new humans are starting to get? And why is the mainstream media talking about this? Now, I don't know if you remember, but the 2016 clown sightings, this was something the mainstream media reported on ad nauseum as well. And I can't help but feel I'm getting the same vibe from this. This is their way of hinting once more at the existence of the Nephilim. Because symbolically speaking, I took this as the media telling us you're going to start seeing more manifestations of the Nephilim. Because the clown is a symbol for the Nephilim and was created specifically for that reason by secret societies. Again, go check out my work to show all the evidence on that. But this is not an accident. This is certainly by design. So when I saw the media here in 2016, all of them talking about the creepy clown sightings, in a way, is this not just a new version of people are starting to see creepy clowns everywhere again? People with wide grinning faces and elongated features, demonic features. I feel like this is just something similar. Some initial reactions I saw to this were people basically saying, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that this is real. This is clearly fake. They're clearly messing with us. They're trying to wind Christians up or something like that. Why has this only just appeared now? And why has this not been a thing since forever? If it's truly a syndrome, maybe the media's just making it up. And you know what? Maybe we always have to be careful that we're not being gaslit here. And if the mainstream media is talking about it, we should always take everything with a pinch of salt. That's for sure. But perhaps what we are seeing here, I think what a lot of Christians have taken this to be is something like the veil between the spirit world is thinning as we get closer to the end times. So people are going to start seeing more and more manifestations of demons. That seems to be the mainstream Christian conspiracy theorist take from all of this. But I would posit perhaps another thing as well, which we should take into consideration, what my research has actually shown me. Now, one key takeaway from this description is that the people who see these things have suffered some kind of trauma or damage in some way, whether that's physical or mental trauma. PTSD was one of them, which obviously is some kind of mental traumatic event in an individual's life, which has changed the brain chemistry or done something to them, which has now made them able to perceive something scary, perhaps on the other side. And that description there is actually nothing new. So my research has shown me that certain shamans, for example, like the Mudangs of Korea. So a Mudang of Korea is a paid shaman who people and families in Korea pay for to come and do a specific ritual called a cut. And once they do everything correct, it's their job to channel and talk to and control spirits in the immediate area on behalf of the paying family who paid for the shaman to come to the house to do these things. And it's quite interesting. I have an episode on this on my channel where I go into details about the cut ritual and what it entails. But if you look into this, it turns out no Madang wants to be a Madang exactly. They don't want to be a channel for spirits. They all say they ended up being this way after suffering extreme trauma. And once they started suffering something extremely traumatic in their life, whatever that is, whether it's ill health, the death of a family member or a loved one, or abuse or torture or something horrible, suddenly they could connect with the spirits. It was a byproduct of their trauma. And therefore they go into the profession of being a Mudang shaman. And they go find another shaman who's already been doing it for a while and usually get taken under their wing and get trained in the ritual. And these are the quintessential hat men characters. They use the hat to channel the demons, the wide-brimmed hat. And I thought it was quite funny, just an odd coincidence here, perhaps. But if you look into this case, one of the men who's done this happens to dress in a similar fashion with a wide-brimmed hat. And I think he was seen wearing a long trench coat as well in another one of these images somewhere. So I just thought that was an odd coincidence. That the Madangs also dress in a similar fashion, and they too are purposefully channeling the spirits. It seems like inadvertently, these people in the West who are ignorant of shamanistic practices and don't understand that trauma is intrinsically linked with the ability to see spirits and communicate with them. Is that what's actually happened here? Have these people suffered something so terrible, like PTSD inducing terrible, that they now have the ability to perceive the demons within people? And a demon is a parasitical thing. When they possess people, they tend not to want the possessed to know that they're in there. But because of the way hosting within a body works, I imagine in a sense they are fully connected to every nerve ending in a human being's body. Because the key aim for a demon is to experience pleasure through your senses. So it wouldn't surprise me that they are connected holistically. Their mouths are connected to your mouths. Their eyes are connected to your eyes in like a layered fashion. And they see through your eyes, they taste through your tongue. They feel through your fingers and your skin, so they would, in a sense, become like a hidden. They're wearing you like a suit in a way, like an ethereal way, So if someone was suddenly to be able to perceive the demons within people, maybe it would manifest something quite literal like this in this literal sense, and they have in a sense become like the person they have possessed, just slightly distorted. Just a spitball in here, but from my research into the spiritual realm and how demons work over the past decade, this does seem to fit the bill quite well. Why people are suddenly coming forward now explaining that they're having these experiences, you do have to wonder. You do have to wonder. Now, getting back on track to, trauma is what causes people to be able to actually do all of this and actually channel spirits and communicate with them. Because don't forget, when these people do channel the spirits, they prove that they have a spirit in them by cutting themselves and stabbing themselves and not bleeding, or the blades not piercing their skin. And that's evidence that they now have a demon in them who's given them immortality and strength, basically, during that time while they're being fully possessed. So the ritual it's a dangerous ritual. They take it very seriously. They're not messing around. These blades they're carrying are not simply just ceremonial. They're there for a purpose, to prove that they actually are possessed, It's pretty dark stuff when you look into it. But if you go on to the idea that these things are actually channeling because they were traumatized, and now suddenly people are seeing these things all of a sudden in the past few years, well, we have to look back and we have to consider, didn't something extremely traumatic happen around the 2020 period that affected the whole world? People lost loved ones, people were isolated, people were cut off from one another, from their normal lives, people were separated from their parents as their parents died alone. Truly traumatic, horrible things did happen to people, especially over the past 4 years. Collectively, to the psyche of all of humanity, what happened was a global issue, as it's described. It was everywhere. And I think in a way we've all suffered a little bit as a result, right? And we're all now kind of in extreme fear on edge, traumatic PTSD mode because of it. Some people never really bounce back. Some people are still following unnecessary, what shall we say, rules that were enforced, which have been proven to be useless. Yet out of fear, they still conform to them. You all know what I'm talking about, but this event was a traumatic experience for many, and also since then, and since the solution has been taken by many people, are we perhaps not seeing an extremely large influx of pain, misery, and even death, sudden death, perhaps as a result of the rushed solution? We're living in a time of extreme gaslighting and trauma. Collectively, humanity is traumatized. Are we going to start seeing more people as a result of their brains being changed due to the trauma? Start to see the spirit world more so and start to experience perhaps things like this more, which is why this is just a sudden issue that's suddenly cropping up now. I think it's just something to bear in mind. I think it's something that does connect quite well to my research of how the spirituality works, how the spirit realm works, if this is a manifestation of the demonic. I do think the reference to the dragons here is not unintentional, because like I said, the Nephilim are the disembodied spirits of dragon-like entities mixing with human women and creating hybrid offspring. So yeah, fascinating stuff. I don't think there's much more I could probably add to that other than the shared trauma aspect, why this is suddenly becoming a thing, and how trauma is a means to create a shaman, and how to get somebody capable of actually perceiving the spiritual realm more so than other people. As with example here with the Mudang shamans, perhaps that's what we're seeing here, and perhaps that's why we're seeing Willem Dafoe faces manifesting on people more so than others. But I just thought that was interesting, guys. Definitely strange things going on currently. Definitely odd that the media would be showing this to us themselves. But in true predictive programming fashion, they do have to tell you the truth, it seems, for some bizarre reason. And perhaps this is just them hinting that you all have these things in you, perhaps. And this is what they look like: wide grins, bulging eyes, not dissimilar from what we call a modern Western clown, you know. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.
I want you to get together